Well, thank you for joining me for this webinar, whether you're watching a recording of this or whether you're here live today. And this is a talk that I gave at the WooCommerce Vancouver meetup. It was last month and had a really positive response to it. And I realized not everyone who was interested could actually fly out to Vancouver to be a part of it. So I decided to give this through a webinar format and to make a recording available of this. So just before we kind of dive in, the focal point for this will be a site called Learn OmniFocus that I launched just over 2 years ago now. And this is my first real foray into membership sites. So I'll talk about some of the trials and tribulations and talk about it both from a business perspective as well as from a technical perspective. I find both are very key areas. Sometimes you might find you gravitate to one or the other, but to really have something be successful, I think those are both areas that need to be given a good amount of attention. So I'm going to talk about my niche, and I think it is important to develop a niche or some sort of differentiating factor when creating any sort of a membership site. And I'll talk about my journey to developing my niche. It's not really something I planned. It's something that really emerged and just flowed very nicely. So I'll talk about how that came to be. I'll talk about the things that I did in preparation for launching the membership site, the people I consulted, the research I did, because I wanted to do as much in advance and to really understand the market and to understand membership sites in general. So I'll walk through my process on that, as well as talking about the website from the user's point of view and what a user would see, what the experience is like, what they'd have access to if they're not a member, and what becoming a member opens up. And then I'll give a peek under the hood and talk about some key WordPress plugins that I use. Some ones, and generally speaking, the ones I've chosen have worked really well. So I'll just give some highlights from that and what kind of makes everything work. And also, I definitely didn't do everything perfectly over the past couple of years. So I want to talk about some of the lessons that I've learned. And my hope is that if you're currently running a membership site or you're thinking of doing one, hopefully you'll benefit from what I learned for this site. So before we get into the membership site itself and Learn OmniFocus, I just want to talk a little bit about my story, just to kind of let you know how I got to be at this point and to give some context for what I'm going to talk about. And I'll go back to 2003. That's when I launched my company, Technically Simple. And Technically Simple kind of grew out of my growing up with technology myself and just seeing all of the advances and seeing all the potential, and also noticing how technology in many cases was, instead of making people's lives easier, was even making it maybe a bit more difficult and stressful and so forth. So that vision is very strong today. It's definitely gone through a number of iterations. I discovered that a lot of the work that I do revolves around having coaching conversations with people, and whether I'm working with an individual or a company, it's very important for me to understand what's important to them. And very often people aren't really totally clear, what motivates them to get out of bed in the morning, where are things going down the road, where's the excitement and all of that. So I naturally had coaching conversations and did some professional training just to be able to facilitate those conversations more easily, and that's still very much a part of the work that I do today. And then 2008, life literally changed overnight. I had a very active business at that point, working with a lot of coaching and consulting clients, very full calendars and to-do lists and things like that. And I was very unexpectedly diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer. And so I had to let go of the business. And really my only task for that year was to go beyond my illness, to heal from that. And in some ways, it was the worst thing that's happened to me. And in other ways, it was the best thing that's happened to me, because there were so many deep insights and opportunities that grew out of that. And Learn OmniFocus is one of those things. I'm happy to report I got a clean bill of health later that year. It was quite a roller coaster ride, but I got a clean bill of health in December of 2008, and that I let go of pretty much all of my clients at that point. So I had a blank slate to work with, and I could kind of go back to what I was doing in the company previously, or I could just reinvent things. So I chose the latter, and that's what led to developing this niche. And as I mentioned earlier, I think a niche is very important, just because there's so many websites and so many membership sites and so much competing for attention out there. So if something is too broad or it doesn't have anything to clearly differentiate it, then there's a good chance it'll just kind of get lost in the noise. And it might be really good quality content and have something really great to offer, but the risk, I think, is people never discover it. So one thing that as I was going through my cancer treatments, that was a real significant step that I took, was to listen to the audiobook of Getting Things Done. And I'd heard a lot of people talking about David Allen's work, and I had some time on my hands, so I went through the book. And at first it didn't really seem to apply to me, because it was talking about like file folders and things, and I was healing from cancer. But I realized that that I could apply these techniques even as part of my healing process. So I created projects around healing from cancer, and projects to motivate me to go beyond my illness, and ended up writing an article that I sent off to the David Allen Company. And much to my surprise, within, I think, a couple of hours, I'd heard from about half the people in the company, including David Allen himself. And they said, okay, we'd love to publish their article. And David Allen said, can I interview you for this In Conversations series that he has on GTD Connect? So this was something where I just sent it off, not knowing if I'd even get a response. And it turned to be quite a pivotal moment in my career. Another thing, since I'm so fond of technology, I looked for what are some of the great solutions out there to apply this GTD, and I definitely honed in on OmniFocus very quickly. And this is a solution that was designed around GTD, and it's the one I was using personally. And I wasn't fully understanding how to use it effectively, so I went looking for training materials and discovered there really wasn't very much out there. So I decided I was just going to figure it out, and then I created a course around that and called the Omni Group. They're based just down in Seattle, and they create apps for Mac and iOS, including OmniFocus. So I got in touch with their marketing department and told them that I was doing this course here in Vancouver, and they said, "Oh, that's great. Can we send a couple of people from our team up to Vancouver? We want to film your course. We want to do like a little profile for you on your life and your business and so forth." So I said, "Sure, that sounds great." So they sent a couple of people up to Vancouver and ended up creating this video profile. It's the first of these customer stories that they did, talking about my journey through cancer and how OmniFocus ties into that. And OmniFocus has a worldwide following. It's a very, very popular app, and before long, I was getting calls from people all over the planet saying, "Oh, I need some help with my setup as well." So I developed a very active practice around helping people with OmniFocus, and by extension, helping them with their lives and businesses. I also got some great attention. I was invited to speak at the OmniFocus Setup event, which happened in San Francisco. It was in January of 2013, and that got lots of attention. I was there with some well-known people in the productivity space. Some of you might have heard of Merlin Mann, who's the guy right beside me, and he invented that term, Inbox Zero. And Kurosh Dini is he wrote the first book on OmniFocus. Sven Fechner is a very active blogger based in Germany, and David Sparks is the one on the right here, who's very well known, especially in the Mac and iOS community. So suddenly I was relatively unknown in those days, but just being at this conference, I got to meet all of these wonderful people and just got some great attention from that. So I worked as a coach and consultant, focused in on OmniFocus for a while, and then realized that I couldn't possibly coach all of the people out there that were interested in this work. And I also found I was repeating myself over and over, and I thought it would be really great if I had like some videos I could point people to, so I don't have to spend an hour going through the features. We can focus more on what's unique about them and maybe the business that they run or the work that they do. So I realized the work I was doing, while very fulfilling, it wasn't very scalable. So I looked at what could be a possible next step for this. So at this point, one major decision to make was, do I just create a video about it and just sell the video, or do I do something it's more has more of a life to it. It's more ongoing, and so it's a question of selling content or subscription. And selling content, it was definitely appealing in the sense that I produce a product. I'll probably sell quite a few of them. Definitely help people in the process. But it felt kind of limited, because once the sort of the interest died down, there wouldn't be necessarily any other income coming from it. I wouldn't really necessarily have much contact with the people who actually bought the product. So I was definitely drawn to the subscriptions. And just a few reasons I went with this model. I really like connecting with people, even face-to-face, in a lot of the online sessions that we do. Certainly have gotten to know a lot of members through email and various ways. So I really like that sense of community, and I think that's something that people are often hungry for. They really are motivated to live productive lives, but there aren't necessarily people around them that are that excited about it. So having this opportunity to actually connect to a community that really enjoys Mac and iOS, and especially OmniFocus, and having that commonality definitely was a big motivator. I also wanted something sustainable, and I planned to do this work for many years to come. And if I just created a product, I might, as I mentioned earlier, sell a lot of them, but then there's no sort of future there. I might not be able to sell a version 2 very easily, things like that. So I wanted something that could continue to sustain the business, allow me to have ongoing income, so I could continue to create content and do online activities and things. And at the time, I had never done any sort of a membership site before, and so I decided, instead of just doing it by trial and error, it would be good to see what's out there, because I knew there are some people who have been very successful in this space. And one of the best sources of information I found is WPSessions.com had this webinar on building a membership site. And I wasn't at the live one, but I did spend the $19 and get access to the recording of it. And it was just so full of great information, talking about the various solutions that are available. And there are a lot of them out there. So it was a little bit dizzying at first to even know which one to choose. And I knew this was a major decision. It's not easy to switch to a different solution down the road. And then beyond the technology side, just knowing how to actually engage people in the first place, and what are some key things that I need to do to keep people engaged. Because sometimes there's a lot of interest in a site initially, but then if there's not something to just keep the momentum going, then people might just kind of fizzle away. So Chris Lima was one of the people on there, and he's definitely got a lot of experience in this space. And Sean Hesketh, who's has a very successful site called WP101.com. He was another one of the speakers, and he gave me some great advice through email. I shared some of the technologies I was using with him, and I said, "Oh, that's a great choice." So just being assured of that from someone who's really successful, it gave me a good boost, and it helped let me know that I was on the right track. I also had a chat with Daniel Espinoza, who's very well known in the WooCommerce space as well. He gave me some great advice, and again assured me that I was on the right track, not just in terms of the technology, but the way I was approaching all of this. So spending some time with the experts can be money that's really well spent. And there's even a lot of great free online content out there and videos to watch and so forth. And I'll point to a few resources. One of the most valuable things I did as well was to do a survey as I was getting ready to launch the site. And I didn't do anything fancy. This is just one that I did with Gravity Forms, and I just asked a few questions. This is something that people could complete in like 30 seconds to a minute. It wasn't too involved, but it asks what are really the key things that I wanted to know. I wanted to know, are people brand new to OmniFocus? Are they power users that want to get a bit more out of it? It was very useful to know things like, are they familiar with Dave Dowland's getting things done methodology and so forth? And I also asked questions like about pricing, and that was one of the biggest question marks and I think this is one of the biggest things that a lot of people face when they're doing a membership site is, what do I charge for this thing? Charging enough that it's going to be a viable product from a business point of view, and that it's enough that people value it, but not so much that it's kind of out of people's price range and they don't even consider it. So I got some very valuable insights from doing this survey, and especially around the pricing. And if I had to go back 2 years, and I don't think I would have changed the pricing a penny. It just worked out really well. Also did some teasers as it got closer, just to create some anticipation around it. I had a mailing list. I think I had at least 1,000 people on the mailing list before the site even launched. And that also, as things were busy getting towards the launch, it helped me to know that people were actually interested in this. I wasn't just building something that no one was interested in. I had some great support from people in the community that are well known for their OmniFocus expertise. And I mentioned Sven Fetcher and Kurashtini before, and they've been very generous in their support of the site. And have definitely shared it with their communities, as well as really encouraged me in the work that I do. So very, very thankful for their contribution. And I was also a guest on Mac Power Users. I think we recorded that, I think it was the day or the day after the launch. And they have a very large network of users. So right out of the gates, I had plenty of attention to audiences that were very much aligned with what I was doing. And then the technology side, so I want to talk a little bit about why I chose WooCommerce, because there were some other ways of doing this. I could have gone with a solution that was kind of sort of pre-baked and, had everything that I needed or some of what I needed. There are other platforms that I could have gone with, but there's few key reasons that I chose WooCommerce. And one was that I'd used it before. I'd used it in other sites, and I was familiar with it. I knew it was very capable, so I felt confident from that point of view. And WooCommerce has a huge penetration all over the world, and I know it's not going anywhere anytime soon or ever. It's just got such a great stronghold right now, so it has a very bright future. And if a platform is very popular, there tend to be a lot of people supporting it as well, and consultants to call upon, and developers who know it. So that was a big factor as well. And WooCommerce is highly configurable, even without adding any extensions to it. It can really do a lot right out of the box. Things like I needed to make sure it calculated Canadian taxes, because depending on where the person's joining from, there's a different tax. And if someone's outside of Canada, I didn't want them charging any taxes. So something that other solutions didn't do very well. It was just such an easy thing to do in WooCommerce. And then expandable, there's just such a huge number of really high quality extensions to WooCommerce. And these keep getting created and expanded and so forth. So it's really incredible what can be done with this platform. So if we go to 2014 now, which is when I unveiled Learn OmniFocus for the first time, and there's definitely a lot of interest. I remember publishing the site, and I had someone join before I even announced on Twitter or anything that the site was live. So there were definitely people that were eager to get in on this. So I'll talk about what the site looks like and just give you a peek of what it looks like from a user's perspective and what sort of user experience I wanted to create through it. And then I'll show you the plugins that I use behind the scenes to make all of this happen. Okay, so this is the home page here, and I just wanted to provide a gentle introduction into it, get a sense, are people starting from scratch? Are they intermediate users who want to just develop some new habits around using this and some new techniques? Or are they power users that just want to get a little bit more power and efficiency out of this? And the content consists of, there's articles and videos and recordings of webinars. And some of these are free of charge, and they're provided free to everybody. They've got that free banner that makes that really clear. And other ones, you need to be a member to access that content. So I try to make that as clear as possible and give people a good sense of what the content is like. There's certainly a lot of valuable content, and even if somebody doesn't join, they can get a lot out of just visiting the site and reading the articles and watching the videos. So if someone's not logged into the site and they go to one of the free content, they can just go ahead and play the video. I've included a fairly detailed description for all of the content. So SEO is very strong. In fact, sometimes when I'm looking for something on my own site, I just Google it because I know it's going to take me right into my own content. And the fact that everything is about OmniFocus actually makes it very easy to get high SEO rankings, because I just score so highly for anything that has OmniFocus in the name. And if someone goes to content that's members only, they'll see a notice like this, and there's a very, very clear call to action. They just sign up, they become a member, and they get instant access to all this content. I also really stress the live component. So I do webinars like the one I'm doing regularly, which give people the opportunity to join in. I always do like an informal kind of meet and greet before we get into the formal webinar, so people can turn on their cameras, they can get to know each other. And I've had quite a few guests on, including the people I mentioned earlier, like Sven Fetchter and Parash Dini, David Sparks have all been guests. Sean Blanc, who's popular, Joe Bulig, who's gotten to be really well known in the OmniFocus space, have all been guests. So having people that have their own networks and their own followings, just inviting them to be part of the site rather than seeing it as competition, I find has just worked really well. And then people who have maybe read their books or watched their videos or heard their podcasts, they have an opportunity to actually meet them face to face and have a chat and ask questions and things like that. So I'll be having definitely more guests in the future, and just it's one of the ways I'm looking to build the community. In terms of pricing, pretty much everybody I talked to, or all the advice I read, suggested that having 3 tiers can be very useful. So someone can join for $29 and just get access for 3 months. And for some people that might be sufficient. Maybe they just want to get up to speed and then they just kind of go off on their own. They can always come back and rejoin in the future. And then for an extra $10, they can have a 6-month membership. And then once people get to that level, they say, okay, well, maybe I'll just go for the full membership. And I've tried to price it so it's affordable to most people, and they get a lot of value for being a member. And yeah, I find this has worked really well. Currently, I accept both PayPal and Stripe because I didn't want the payment to be too big of a barrier. And PayPal is one that I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with. That is definitely the one that has caused me the most headaches in terms of supporting, and so it's one that I want to keep on there because there's so many people with PayPal accounts, and it makes the payment very easy, and many people trust that as a form of payment. But it has been the one that's been the more difficult one to support of the two, and Stripe has been pretty much maintenance free. So just a little heads up, if you are considering that, if you are supporting PayPal on a membership site, there might be some complications. I definitely recommend educating yourself. And I'll give you a few little tidbits that I've learned that hopefully will help. Much to my surprise, I've had people join from 59 countries, even though the content is only in English. So it's I didn't know what to expect exactly when I launched, but it's been just really, really great to have such an international audience and to get perspectives from people in different countries, and also to realize that whether you live in Vancouver or New Zealand or Zambia, you're going to be facing very challenging. Actually, I don't have Zambia on there. There is someone in Zambia that's a part of the community too. So I'll make that 60 countries. But it's interesting how we all have similar challenges, even though we maybe are in very different professions and cultures and so forth. There's certain sort of core challenges that come with just the state of the world and the pace of technology and things like that. So I just love the international aspect of it. So just a little peek under the hood here to just show some key plugins and things that I'm using. I host a site through WP Engine, which is a service that has been recommended by many people. It's definitely not the cheapest one out there, but that was one of the best decisions I made was to go with WP Engine. It just makes the development and testing and everything so much easier. And I'll talk about that one in a little bit, in a bit more detail. In terms of access to the content, I use the very popular Groups plugin that's been around quite a while now, and it's basically people can be in just a general subscriber group, or if they're in a members group, then that automatically unlocks access to all the videos. They can register in webinars and things like that, and if they're not in that group, then they just get blocked from that. So it creates a nice sort of toggle switch for that. The content itself is in these tutorials custom post type, and this is based on excuse me. This is based on the PODS framework, and I did some research, and this seemed like a very well supported platform, and it's worked well doing it under PODS. I worked with someone who's very familiar with PODS, a developer by the name of Josh Pollock, and he developed this tutorials custom post type based on PODS. And anytime I have a new tutorial, whether it's an article or even a webinar recording or video, it just goes into one of these tutorials. And then I've got different switches to specify what type of content it is, and level, what platform it supports, and so forth. And then the plugin that Josh developed does all the magic behind the scenes to make sure things display properly, whether it's a video or an article and so forth. And this is also what controls access to the content. So if in this example here, I've got a free video and the field is blank, so it's just going to put up that banner. But if I wanted, I could have maybe just a 1-minute clip from the video, and I could drop it in there and give people a free preview. And then if they became a member and moved into that members group, then they would have access to the full video. So it's nice and straightforward, very easy to add content. And then on the WooCommerce side, there's a number of plugins that are essential to the site working. The key one is WooCommerce subscriptions, and this was in pretty early days. It was in like a version 1 product when I first started using it, and then it went through a major update. I think it was last September, and to version 2. And it was good when it started out, but it's gone to a new level with version 2. And there's a lot of great functionality, a lot of power under the hood here. And if you haven't used a subscription product before, it basically just adds some other product types to WooCommerce. And add some extra fields where you can set the subscription price and then how long is the subscription. You can have free trials, you can do sign-up fees and things like that. So it's very, very flexible in terms of the setup. And you can also have a group of subscriptions. So in my case, I have a group that contains the 3-month, 6-month, and 1-year products. And then without really doing anything, people have the option, without me having to do any further development, people have the option to switch. So maybe they start off with a 3-month subscription, and then they say, okay, this is great, I'm going to stick around. So they can just go into their My Account page and easily switch to a year subscription, or they can turn off automatic renewals if they don't want that to happen automatically. They can do pretty much all of the admin side themselves, and this was one thing too, because I don't have like a big admin team to take care of this. So just both for the convenience of the members and to make sure that I don't get overwhelmed, having this be as automated as possible is definitely a priority. One little technical thing is if you are using PayPal with subscriptions, something that I learned, this was around when subscriptions 2 came out, that was highly recommended, is to turn on what are called reference transactions. And if you go to the WooThemes website, you'll see a note about that. And it's a matter of contacting PayPal and asking them to turn reference transactions on. When I did this, it wasn't a totally clear process. I think I had to call them a couple of times in email, but if you, hopefully you'll get it the first time, but if not, if you ask them a few times, I find this gets turned on. And basically this allows a lot of flexibility. It gives WooCommerce subscriptions a lot of flexibility in terms of changing the subscription length, and if I want to give somebody an extra month for some reason, things like that, it just opens up a lot of possibilities that if you're just using the default PayPal standard, it's pretty limited in terms of what can be done. Groups for WooCommerce was another key piece in this, and basically what it does is if someone buys a a subscription, then they automatically get put into the members group. And then once their subscription expires, assuming they don't have the automatic renewal or the payment fails or something like that, then they automatically get removed from it. So it's all automatic, and then they can just join again, and they can be added, or if the payment failed, they can just go in and redo the payment, and then they'll automatically be added back, and they'll get all the benefits that they had before. So that's worked really well. The follow-ups plugin used to be called follow-up emails, but it's just called follow-ups now. And this is one key piece in it. I used it again when it was in its fairly early stages, but it has matured quite a bit now. And the main use for this one, in my case, is to send people a welcome email inviting them to join the mailing list and to let them know about automatic renewals, just so that's really clear and how they can turn those off if they don't want to. And then another really key thing, and something that I think is essential, is to let people know that the subscription payment is happening before it actually pays, because sometimes people maybe don't realize, or they've forgotten that they're actually on a subscription and they're going to be charged regularly unless they cancel that. So I find a week before is a good time frame. Just let people know this is what's going to be happening, provide really clear instructions how they can turn off automatic renewals if they want, and it's also just a good chance to reach out and ask for any feedback they have, see how it's going so far. So this is definitely a plugin, and I'll be using more and more just to generate more for different cases, like if someone's hasn't chosen to automatically renew, maybe a few weeks before their subscription term, and just sending an email out to touch base and maybe ask them to complete a survey, or if their membership ended a few months ago and they're not currently active, sending them an email to invite them to come back. And again, just something to generate some dialogue. I did do, especially for people who are really supporting me and cheerleaders in what I'm doing, I set up an affiliate program. I decided not to make this available to everybody, so there's just a few people in my community that have access to affiliate plans, and it's a way of giving back to them and supporting the work that they do. So the plugin I use that I've been absolutely thrilled with is called affiliatewp.com, and I was just amazed at how easy it was to set this up. It's work trouble-free. There's a lot of functionality that I'm not using, but if I wanted to do things like automatic monthly payments to affiliates, that's something I'll probably put in place quite soon. So it's at that point, there's really nothing for me to do. It would take care of everything. I'm also a big fan of advanced custom fields, and this is one that I currently use for an app directory. So this directory on the site that is all the apps that either support OmniFocus or complement it, and I wanted to have that in one place in a way that people could filter it down to see like all the email apps or all the iOS apps and things like that. And advanced custom fields was definitely an obvious choice for that. And there's a lot of options in terms of how the data is displayed, but it's also got a really beautiful admin interface for actually adding content to it. So I've been really impressed with that one. I'm a big fan of Gravity Forms as well. This plugin never ceases to amaze me, and I've got their developer. I purchased one of their developer plans, so I've got access to everything that they offer. And this is one I'm only using a small percentage of what's available, but it's nice to know that there's much more there if I need it. And one practical way I use this, an example is the contact form, and I have a little subject thing, and I have it send an automatic response based on what type of inquiry it was. So if it's a billing inquiry, then I can probably guess it's probably one of three things that people are contacting me about. Maybe they got an unexpected payment, and so I make sure that this autoresponder says, yeah, if you have an unexpected payment, just let us know within like a couple of weeks and we'll definitely give you a refund. So even if I'm not able to respond right away, at least people have the information, they can just relax. They're not like wondering if they're going to get their money back and things like that. So 2 years later, I just give a little snapshot of how things actually look, going from where I started to where I am now. And this is getting into the lessons that I've learned. And one of the big ones is that if you're going to do something like this, it's really important to have consistent content. And this is an area where I have found challenging at times, because sometimes the running of the business can kind of take over even just updates to WordPress. And I have developers that work with me, but yeah, I have a technical background, so it's hard for me to not get involved in this. And, or if there's sort of any issues I need to address on the functional side, so that can be a real distraction. So I find I need to be very intentional about setting aside time for content development, and that's something I continue to work on, and I've really started to ramp that up. So there's a good consistent flow. Customer support, fortunately, has been actually quite easy. I don't get that many support emails, and that's just something I handle by email at the moment. And having the site that's quite automated in terms of any changes to the accounts has really made a big difference, and I try to make that as clear as possible. So as the membership grows, I'll probably move to something like Zendesk, but for now it's actually quite an easy thing. And I like just the simple email exchanges, because that's part of the way I get to know people, and they might put a little comment, oh, by the way, I'm a teacher in New Zealand or something like that, and they say, oh yeah, what are some of your challenges, or just tell me about, where is OmniFocus working for you, where isn't. So anytime I get an opportunity for dialogue, I take it, and customer support is just one of those great opportunities. And as I mentioned, website maintenance can be a challenge at times. It's very important to test any updates, especially if it's like a major update to WooCommerce. And some of that testing is not just a simple test. It's maybe creating some new accounts and just going through the process and making sure it works. So it can be a little time consuming. That's definitely something that I'm stepping away from as I take on more things myself. And one thing that does, in the meantime, make it much easier is, as I mentioned earlier, WP Engine. And they have a very easy way to create a copy of the site. You can go to a staging server, do all of the testing. It's just very, very easy, very flexible. And then I do the testing there, or maybe one of the web developers I work with will do some testing. And then once it hits the live site, we're pretty much guaranteed it's going to work as expected. They also recently introduced some great profiling tools. So if there's any performance issues, that can be a great way to just kind of figure out where things are slowing down. So in terms of what's next, one thing that I definitely want to start paying more attention to is reporting and analytics. And I do look at kind of general site stats just to see what content is most popular and visitors and things like that. But I haven't been spending a lot of time just to notice like trends in terms of memberships, like how long do people stay a member, when people let their subscription expire, do they come back? And I've noticed just that many people do, but it'd be interesting to have some more concrete statistics around that. And as the tools progress, WooCommerce and WooCommerce subscriptions, it's getting easier and easier to get to that information, and that's definitely a major request I've made to people in that space, just to developers in that space, just to really add more enhancements to this, because this is what really allows those strategic business decisions to be made. I'm also revisiting the site layout, especially as I add more content, just to make it really obvious, especially if someone's brand new, what's a logical flow through it, really guiding people through the site, giving like a logical sequence to watch videos in and so forth. So I've done that to some extent, but there's definitely some work to do in that area. And just in general, working on member retention and what can I do to support people, and just getting really clear on where people's pain points are in terms of OmniFocus and life in general. So just to get a sense of how I can best support them, and through like videos and live webinars and things like that. So that's a key area as well. I'm also really excited to be launching brand new membership sites later this year called Holistic Productivity. And Holistic Productivity is an approach to productivity that really encompasses all of the work that I do. And I've been leading courses on this, both publicly and to corporations for years now, and definitely have refined the approach and got a lot of experience around it. And so this site that's launching later this year is going to be a community-based site that builds on the experience I've had so far, and creates an online community for people who are just really motivated to take on big things in their life and want a community to help support them in that. So there's going to be an informational component, but definitely a lot of interactions and workshops and seminars and so forth. So hard to work at that at the moment, and just really excited to bring that to fruition later this year. I've also been looking at the WooCommerce memberships plugin, and just really impressed with what's possible with this. So I think when I launch the holistic productivity site, I don't think I'll do what I did with Learn OmniFocus in terms of using pods and so forth, and the groups. I think WooCommerce memberships will just give me a little more power under the hood, and it is a plugin that's in constant development, and there's a lot of really exciting things that are coming to this. So it's one that I'm getting to know myself, and just sort of a general best practice, I think, is sometimes the functionality just doesn't exist, as it did when I launched Learn OmniFocus, and so having doing what I did made a lot of sense, and using the groups and having a custom plugin developed. But where possible, if you can use an existing plugin and just sort of minimize the amount of custom development, I think it makes much more sense, because if I have a custom plugin, unless I'm like paying somebody to further develop it, it's kind of stagnant. There aren't going to be any more features, whereas a lot of the WooCommerce extensions are gaining features regularly, and it's just a matter of kind of tapping into that functionality when it comes along. A few resources that I found recently that have been very useful. I've gotten to know Michael Steele and Travis Northcott. I'm actually part of a community, and there's a bunch of us that do membership sites, and we're just starting to do regular check-ins, and we have a forum where we discuss things and so forth. So it's been really valuable to connect regularly with people who are maybe in totally different businesses than me, but still facing some of the same challenges. There's a great site, sellwithwp.com, and Becca Rice is actually on the call today. So if you haven't seen that yet, I definitely recommend going to check that out. And I've had a bit of contact with Becca, and it's great to have her here today. And she gave a great talk at the WooConf earlier this year. I definitely recommend checking that out as well. And there's a recent podcast called Do the Woo, and that is about WooCommerce in general, but there's already been some great episodes that talk specifically about memberships and subscriptions, and some of the best people in the WooCommerce arena have been guests on this. So definitely recommend giving that a try and listening to some of those as well. So lots of great resources out there. I've always loved the community that's formed around WordPress. All right, so at this point, I'd like to open it up for any questions you have. I'm happy to elaborate on anything that I've shared so far, and also if you have any experiences that you'd like to share, now is a great time to do it as well.
On my end, it's really cool to hear your story behind that, Tim. Thanks for sharing that. Definitely, the whole thing going from being diagnosed to having a clean slate to building all this back up is really cool to hear. I guess for one thing I'd be curious about, since coming at this from the developer end of things, we on our team have set up our own e-commerce sites. We've tried to run them and stuff. I think one of the interesting things was that initial gaining traction period. What are some, if you don't mind sharing, some plans you have for your new membership site to kind of get that initial traction at launch to get those first members signed up?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. And yeah, thanks for your feedback there, Becca, and happy to share about that. Well, the beauty is I already have a community that's a natural fit for holistic productivity. So in some ways, the holistic productivity site is an extension of Learn OmniFocus, and Learn OmniFocus is not going anywhere. It's still going to exist, focused on the platform. But holistic productivity is just an opportunity for people to go beyond technology, and it's kind of grown out of some of the feedback I've learned from just people that have even signed up for Learn OmniFocus, and just saying, these are some of the things I'm struggling with, or I'm trying to, even just things like I'm a yoga and meditation teacher as well too. So So I'm going to do some classes around that on holistic productivity. But even for anybody who's motivated to be productive, that's using a tool like Learn OmniFocus, I think there's a lot of people who'll be interested in that. And just one thing that I strongly recommend is if for anybody who doesn't have a community of people around them that support them and are like cheerleaders and stuff like that, and whether they're in the same business as you or a different business, it's very valuable in creating that. And not just from the advice that's gotten, but I often find people, like I'm part of just a wonderful mastermind group. There's 6 of us that get together on Zoom, the tool we're using now, once a week, and they've also, in addition to really supporting me and encouraging me, they also have networks, and they've been in many cases very happy to share what I'm up to. So it's maybe a bit of a long answer. It's creating some excitement ahead of time. Definitely doing a survey, getting a good sized mailing list built up, I find can make a huge difference. Even just maybe giving some sneak peeks at content and just saying, okay, here's just an example of a video that we're going to be sharing on holistic productivity, or here's an event that's going to be taking place later this year. And just so people are really hungry for it when it comes along, versus just kind of sort of dropping it without that traction. It just doesn't, it's nice to start with some momentum, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, cool.
Question from Marcus: do I plan to do an Apple TV app for videos? Videos in general are a bit of a tricky area, I'm finding, especially for playback on like iOS devices, and I'm not sure if it's the same on Android as well, whereas without having an app, there's not much control over sort of the playback process. It's really Apple that takes care of that. So far I've found, and let me know if any of you have any other suggestions, but I found if I want to do things like table of contents and make it more sort of a rich playback experience, then I do need to have an app. So one thing I've thought about doing is having an app for iOS and Apple TV for Learn OmniFocus, and that's a fairly major undertaking. I know I've known other people who have done it, so I've got some people like Don McAllister has a very popular subscription site called Screencast Online, and we're in fairly constant contact, and I've done some content for his site as well. So that's a case where I would reach out to him and just ask him what he's learned from that, and maybe even work with the same developers that he worked with as he was doing these things. But getting into app development, it kind of opens up a can of worms, and there can be quite significant costs. So that's one route I'm thinking of going, just to be able to give people the best possible video experience, especially on mobile devices. At the same time, I'm hoping there'll be something a little more sort of out of the box that I can use. It doesn't require like developing and maintaining an app in order to facilitate that. All right, well, maybe we'll wrap it up there for today. And if you're watching a recording of this and you have questions, definitely feel free to drop me an email, and I'd love to hear from you, and I'll do my best to respond. I won't be able to give I don't do any WordPress development or anything like that. I have done web development in the past, but I've moved out of that industry. Definitely don't have the bandwidth for that, but so I won't be able to answer technical questions or anything like that. But in terms of business direction and sort of choices of technology and things like that, I'm always happy to compare notes on that. And thanks for watching, or thanks for being here live. I hope this was useful, and I hope to maybe see you over on Holistic Productivity if you're drawn to check that out, or even on Learn OmniFocus. Okay, take care.